Welcome back, buddy. Welcome back. Hey, folks, welcome back to Amped Up. I am Cliff Schechter here with the great David Schuster.
2026, we made it! Woohoo!
We made it, and yet it hasn't really started that well, has it?
No.
We made it. Let's make 2026 the year that MAGA disappears from our lexicon, and we get these unbelievable ghouls, these incompetent, just cruel, stupid people out of our government. As you guys may know, there is a breaking story, and as far as we can tell from the video, ICE has actually executed a woman and I don't use that word lightly, executed a woman in Minneapolis. She was shot while sitting in a car. DHS is now trying to claim that she was trying to escape. There are people there who said the car was not moving.
And Cliff, I looked at the video a couple of times this morning. This happened a few hours ago. It looked like the woman, she was in an SUV, as you pointed out, an ICE agent. There were 4 or 5 of them on the street, I think on Portland Street in Minneapolis. And one of the agents yelled at her, "Get the F out of the car, get the F out." She did not. She simply sort of drove away from the agents. And as she was driving away, another agent that was closer to the front of her car to arrest her view shot her literally right through the window. Every witness that, and you see it on the video, said, "This is murder, this is murder." Like there was no question that this was murder. And to me, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I think this has the potential for being another George Floyd moment that galvanizes people. And the reason is because what they have in common is George Floyd was not posing a physical imminent threat to police or himself or witnesses. This woman certainly didn't seem to be posing an imminent threat to police or witnesses or herself. And that's the standard. The courts have long said that if police are going to use lethal force, there has to be that threat. Now, as you point out, DHS immediately said, "Oh, she was trying to ram the agents. She was trying to run them over." That's not what the video shows, and that's not what the witnesses said immediately. And I encourage
and this is Christy Nome
yourself.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead, David. I'm sorry. Finish up.
I was going to say, everybody should look at this video yourself. And to me, I mean, again, this is a moment we have long talked about, the lack of training of DHS, the ruthlessness, the aggressiveness, the taking away of people's constitutional rights, whether you're a citizen or not a citizen, you still have those rights. And to me, this is all emblematic in this one incident. The idea that police, a law enforcement agency with ICE, presumably not well trained, would determine, "Oh, she's not obeying my orders, so I'm going to open fire on her through her window." That's what they have done. It is outrageous.
I mean, again, this is what has been. It's like after our attack, on Venezuela, where numerous people, up to 100 people, were killed. The one woman who is mentioned there, Rosa Gonzalez, because we should say their names, 80-year-old, just living in her neighborhood in Caracas, not doing anything, nothing to do with Trump's oil or Trump's conspiracy theories about Venezuela stealing the election from him because he's fucking crazy and believes stupid things like that, or him wanting to put into place his spheres of influence, 19th century, theory of governance or any of that stuff. Just living there happily. She's dead now. I mean, we have this woman in Minneapolis. She's dead now because of the fascistic way. There's no other way to say it. He's a dictator. They are fascists. This is the way fascists behave. This is the way they conduct government. You don't stop. You don't listen to me. You don't beg me. You don't lick my shoes. I shoot you. And again, as David said, we know that some of as we just passed the 5th anniversary of their act of treason on January 6th, and we know Jack Smith in his filings said that Trump was most responsible for that day. Some of those guys are now members of ICE. They've recruited them. Our friend of the show, Matt McNeil, who's based in Minneapolis, and David should be joining him, I think, today at 4:30 to talk about this. Was saying that there was an earlier photo. This is real, folks, of an asset of a. I was actually going to say an SS agent, might as well have been an ICE agent walking around with an SS tattoo on their forehead. in Minneapolis. These are the fucking people they're recruiting. Just the most racist, irresponsible, stupid themselves. The people that are like them is who they're recruiting. This was so inevitable that this would happen. It is inevitable that it will happen more. And I'm, the mayor of um the mayor of Minneapolis literally just, I guess, in the last hour or two said to ICE to get the fuck, that's his words, out of his city. I think we need to be hearing that from mayors of New York, LA, Cincinnati, where I live, and anywhere else. Get the fuck out. You are not wanted. You are not legal. You're not providing due process. You're not following the law. You're not showing even your face, you cowardly fucks, with your masks.
And the mayor's been saying this for weeks, right? Ever since the Trump administration surged these ICE agents into Minneapolis, the mayor of Minneapolis, city leaders have been saying they are not welcome here. And the last sort of major incident, I think was about a month ago, is ICE agents in the snow. They literally were confronted by protesters. They grabbed a pregnant woman, threw her down on the concrete, and then dragged her along the concrete. Some reports that she lost her baby or miscarried. And ICE claimed, oh, well, she was walking up to the vehicle because she was going to do something bad. What she was doing was exercising her First Amendment right to say, get the hell out of here. And so with all of these incidents in Minnesota, it's been nonstop from the local leaders. Even the police chief of Minneapolis has criticized the ICE.
Yeah, he said he didn't want them there. Right when they came there, he said, get out, we're not, he actually instructed his officers to not follow their orders.
Yep.
I think this needs to be taken a step further. Look, we've had lawyers on. We had Katie Fang on, who's a really good lawyer. And I asked her this question, which is when, there are certain areas have said, we will not help ICE. We will not follow their dictates. But when will state attorneys general and district attorneys in cities start arresting them if they don't follow the law? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, it may come to that, and it may come to some kind of a standoff, but they are breaking the law. Every single one of our states is a republic. Those due process rights extend to all of us. If they're not following them, if they're not showing their faces, if they're not showing a badge, if they're not saying who they are, if they're not, when they show up at your door, they're kicking it in without a warrant, they are breaking the law, and they need to be arrested for it. And I've heard it threatened a few times. It's time to now do it, because again, maybe this incident will spark that. They are Trump's id. They are carrying out what he wants, what he lusts after.
And I would argue, Cliff, it goes even beyond the ICE agents, because there was Tricia McLaughlin, the spokesperson for DHS, rather than put out a statement in any other circumstance, any other administration, I think a spokesperson would say, there has been an incident. We're waiting full information. We will provide more details as we get it. Instead, she immediately went to the nonsensical propaganda. Oh, this woman was trying to ram our agents, and she was a violent woman, and we acted in defense. Tricia McLaughlin, sitting in Washington, doesn't know anything about what happened in this incident. So
who was the one who said about
unlawfully? There's absolutely no morality, no shame. Just to
remember David
about this.
Remember David, was it Hegseth who talked about people sitting in their little air-conditioned spots, not out there? That's what she is, as opposed to somebody now who's dead because they were living their real life, and a bunch of people who hang out with others with SS tattoos on their forehead, who are a bunch of fucking thugs with weapons who don't follow our law, chose to behave in this manner, and they chose to execute somebody. So it is time that we enough. Right? I mean, again, any state attorney general who has any sense of the law and justice, any district attorney, anybody, start arresting these people. All right? Do not let them into your district or into your state, or make it clear you'll arrest them. They are an unlawful fucking Stasi working for Trump. Enough. In fact, we'll get a question here from Denise who's saying, can Minneapolis sue the government on behalf of the victim? I believe they can, but I am not a lawyer. We have Qasim Rashid, who is a lawyer, and should be joining us at some point, I hope soon. And maybe I'm probably pretty sure he can answer that question. But I have to believe the family can sue the federal government. What would happen these days? I don't know. I mean, do they have it? I don't know. Let's see where Roberts and Thomas. Maybe Thomas is off on one of his $500,000 Harling Crow vacations. Gorsuch is on the land he got for whatever the lesser price was. If those guys are available, they're not too busy being the fucking corrupt hacks they are. Maybe they can sort of. Maybe they can choose to hold Trump responsible, or I suppose maybe provide more immunity for everything to everybody who they like. In the same partisan fashion that Mike Johnson won't do anything because Donald Trump is in his party. And I mean, just the way our whole government is run right now, it's absurd. This is absurd. I can't even believe we're having this conversation. I cannot believe somebody who's supposed to be representing the federal government in any capacity is just pulling out guns and they're just shooting people.
And and Cliff, this comes, as you mentioned, one day after the 5th anniversary of January 6th. And I kept hearing yesterday over and over and over from conservatives and the MAGA folks that they've deified Ashley Babbitt. Because Ashley Babbitt was one of the January 6th rioters who tried to literally break in through a door in the U.S. House. And when she was trying to break in, there was a marshal that shot her. And the Trump administration put out a website yesterday saying this was murder, saying that this was all the police officers' fault that January 6th happened in the first place. I mean, such absolute nonsense. And literally hours after they could turn Ashley Babbitt, who was arguably trying to break into the House chamber and got shot, and they claimed that she was an innocent victim. But now the same crowd is suggesting, oh no, this woman in Minnesota had it coming to her because she was in a vehicle and wouldn't obey orders, right, even though the orders were likely unlawful orders, because unless you have probable cause that the woman driving had actually committed a crime or some sort of traffic violation, you can't then order her to come out of the. You can say, please get out of your car, but she has a right to refuse.
Yes, which all of you should know, by the way. Because everybody should really brush up on all of their constitutional rights about now, because these people don't respect any of them. And I'm going to guess that I don't know. Do you know the name of the woman in Minneapolis, David?
They have not named her, at least as.
So we're not doing that on purpose, folks. But just so you know, we would, yeah, I want to treat her with the respect she deserves. I'm going to guess, unlike Ashley Babbitt, who had a whole video she put out ahead of time about she was going to Washington to stir things up and go after the liberals and whatever else she said that made pretty clear what her intent was. I'm going to guess this woman, there is no video of her saying she's going to target ICE and go after. I mean, we don't even need to make these comparisons because it's so blatantly stupid. And it's so blatantly stupid that anybody believes a word these people say anymore, that anybody believes they have the slightest bit of decency, competence. I mean, it is just, we're down such a rabbit hole here. We really are. I mean, we're the worst of the worst are in charge, Oh, gee, DHS said something. Is that Kristi Noem, who shot her dog in the face and illegally got her daughter a real estate license and God knows what else the hell she did while she was, while she was in South Dakota before she posed before men, which is a war crime, being, in a prison cell in El Salvador in CCOT. I mean, it's just, these fucking horrible people.
And Cliff, we actually haven't had a lot of time to talk about it. And I don't think I've asked you since it happened, but I mean, while we're waiting for Qasim, I mean, Venezuela, we extracted, I guess that's the word, extracted Maduro. And look, to be clear, Maduro was evil and he did all sorts of horrible stuff to his fellow citizens of Venezuela. But there are a lot of evil people around the world, and the United States doesn't have the lawful authority under our laws, under international law, to just go and bomb people and conduct this sort of operation. But putting that aside, what's your reaction politically, analytically, in terms of political science, history, with what happened in Venezuela the last couple of days?
Well, I think, I see that Qasim is here, so I'm going to invite him in while we talk about this. Hi, Qasim. How are you?
Managing, living the dream, fighting the nightmare.
So, Qasim, we're going to talk about Venezuela, and I was actually just asking Cliff his reaction, but let's go back to where we started, because we started the conversation talking about the news out of Minnesota that a woman who would not get out of her SUV when ICE agents were saying, get the F out of your SUV on Portland Street. She tried to drive away, and an ICE agent pointed his gun through her window and shot and killed her. I mentioned to Cliff, and you're a lawyer. I'm not, but my understanding of the courts and the Supreme Court precedent is that the rulings is that law enforcement cannot use lethal force unless a suspect seems to pose an imminent danger to an officer, to themselves, or to a witness. I didn't see in this incident that this woman posed an imminent danger or threat. She was clearly driving away. But do I have that right, wrong?
No,
I mean,
you're right, David. The problem is that we have a right-wing MAGA fascist Supreme Court who's going to do exactly what Trump wants them to do, who has concocted this absurd ideology of qualified immunity, which exists nowhere in the Constitution, nowhere in any amendment, nowhere in any state or federal law. It's literally made up by judges as they went along to protect police officers who commit horrific and violent crimes like this one. Somebody asked earlier, can the federal government be sued? The answer is yes, but qualified immunity is this archaic ass backwards doctrine where they can basically, re-engineer, this could have been in the line of duty because the car drove this way and in a split second he thought his life was in danger, so he acted because there was imminent danger. I mean, that's the problem with qualified immunity. That's a problem with the system that we have right now. As we know, a police officer can't even stop you or force you to get out of the car without probable cause. What was the probable cause here? We have no idea. Get the F out of the car is not probable cause. This is fascism and tyranny. And I just need to rant about one thing really quickly.
Please do.
All the people that tell us that we need unlimited guns to stop government tyranny, where are you? Where are you? You scream that we need to have a million bajillion bazookas in case government tyranny comes. Government is literally kidnapping people, black and brown people mostly, and in this case, this woman, I don't know what her race was, but they're literally kidnapping people, shooting them in the face, and you're hiding and cowering. And the reality is that it was never about fighting government tyranny. It was always about protecting white supremacy. Because as long as you were killing black and brown people and rounding them up, you were perfectly good with it. The sheer idea that Ashley Babbitt, who was violently committing insurrection, was killed. Now you're upset about government tyranny. Just admit that it's not about the Second Amendment. It's about your fascism and white supremacy. And at least we'll have an honest conversation at that point.
Yeah, Qasim, what I've often said is the best way to handle when right-wingers, when lunatics, when Republicans, they're all the same, say these kinds of things is just add the simple phrase "for white people" at the end.
Yeah.
And then it makes it clear. We deserve these rights. We have a Second Amendment right for white people.
Yep.
I mean,
and by the way, we should point out to our audience, Qasim Rashid, not only is a lawyer, he's got a great Substack. And Qasim, you've written about some of the tensions that have been going on with ICE. I think you wrote about the hotel in Minneapolis, which decided, hey, we, based on the Supreme Court decision that says a baker doesn't have to bake a cake for a gay couple, just like that, the small business owner in Minneapolis has the right for their own morality reasons to deny service to ICE agents. And then ICE went crazy over this.
Of course. Right.
Rules for me, but not for thee. That's basically what this comes down to. For those interested, tragically just this morning, I published a detailed article. I'm here in the Chicagoland area. I got a tip last night from an immigration activist and a lawyer that ICE fascists arrived last night at a local airport, about 30 to 60 agents, and that they'll be arresting people or raiding people in the area. So I published an article today about how you should be protecting yourself from ICE fascists. It's my latest article, no paywall, accessible. I encourage people to read it and disseminate it.
We told you, go read it, people, because again, we were saying to you, know your constitutional rights. And Qasim is not just a lawyer, but a human rights lawyer. So my guess is this article is chock full of the rights you need to know that you have.
Yep.
And these days we must know all the rights that we have because they will grant you none. They can do this to me twice in a week. There was Venezuela, and again, I'm going to keep saying the name of Rosa Gonzalez, who was 80 years old, just going about her life, living in her apartment, and was blown to bits with up to 100, I suppose, other people as we illegally committed human rights crimes or committed, you know the term is better than me, but these are war crimes. We have no jurisdiction, no ability under, was it Article 2 of the UN to do this? And we went ahead and did it anyhow. And it's all part of the same thing. This is what people need to understand. And Qasim used exactly the word. They are fascists, and fascists, that it's not like it's not like a bug, it's a feature. They want to show you that the laws that apply to us don't apply to them. They get to shoot people, you can't shoot back. They get to bomb you, you can't bomb back. They can do whatever they want to you because they're better. That's what, whether it's, white supremacy, other types of fascist governments, but whatever the race is, whatever the group is, whatever the religion is, whoever's in control, when you have that kind of fascism, it's that they get to make the rules for everybody else.
That's exactly right. And one of the things I wrote about in my article about Venezuela is that every single part of their legal argument falls apart on the most basic analysis. If this was actually an arrest warrant, then why are we charging him with a 1934 machine gun law? It makes no sense whatsoever. If it was about drugs, then why did you drop the case? The DOJ formally dropped the allegation that there were drugs. If this was about him being a dictator, you've hosted Netanyahu, you've hosted MBS, you've hosted Bukele. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's absolutely nothing that substantiates this whatsoever. I will give the Trump regime one note that I appreciate their honesty that this is about controlling oil, unlike the Bush regime, which claimed
there's not even a lie.
Yeah, there's being blunt that no, we don't want Maduro controlling our oil. I mean, that's all. I mean, just be honest about that. You are fascist, you are imperialist, and my hope is that the United States, the people of the United States, recognize that this is not left versus right. This is fascism and billionaire oligarchs versus the rest of us. And until that happens, this divide and conquer strategy is going to continue to work. They are laughing their way to the bank, watching us fight each other while they continue to make housing more expensive, make living more expensive, and put the squeeze on us. And that's my fear, is that this will result in national violence. But I feel like that's what Trump wants.
Well, I'm not even very optimistic that the American people see it as fascism versus anything else or care about the legality. Where I see, though, the American people caring is just in terms of competence. And even if Americans say, okay, we believe that Maduro was a bad guy, you took him out. Well, now what? What is the plan for actually turning Venezuela into some sort of nation that's going to be more favorable to the United States, that's not going to have Iranian, Chinese, Russian connections? And what the Trump team doesn't seem to have any plan. I mean, they have left in aspects of the Maduro regime with the woman who was vice president, who's now president. They say they have the same connections. So all you've done is, okay, you've taken out Maduro, but along the way, in order to clear a path for the helicopters and to take out the missile defense systems, you've killed 100 people in Venezuela, and you've probably started a civil war because there's now
the thing, right?
All the various groups that are rummaging around on the streets. Right. There's no law and order there now.
That's right. That's right. I mean, we're all old enough to remember post-Afghan invasion, post-Iraq invasion, the propaganda videos of like, hey, we're being celebrated as liberators and people dancing in the streets and happy that the military had arrived. One, those are propaganda videos. Two, whatever so-called genuine celebration there was, 20 years after Afghanistan, the Taliban is still in power. After Iraq,
Trump invited them to Camp David. So, they obviously were terrible people.
Yeah, for God's sake, Trump got 5,000 of them released during his first term. And the Brown University report documents between 4.5 and 4.7 million civilians killed in the post-Iraq and Afghan wars. Is that liberation? Is that what you expect is not going to happen this time? I mean, it's a definition of insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result.
It always reminds me of, if any of you have seen Charlie Wilson's War, and that poignant scene at the end, Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, and here's this congressman who really believed that we were freeing these folks from tyranny. He really obviously, and yes, the USSR was tyranny. But at the end, after we spent, untold billions, hundreds of billions, whatever, he's trying to get 2.1 or whatever it is $million to build a school, and they refuse it. And he's like, if we don't try to create a civil society, if we don't try to build that, what do you think is going to happen here? And of course, when that movie came out, it's post 9/11. We all knew what they were saying there. We don't, whatever your belief on these invasions, and I believe they're all wrong and illegal. I think there is some justification one could make for sending in special forces to try to get bin Laden against the Taliban, but certainly not for invading the entire country and doing what we did. But that's the thing is we're not going to do a Germany or a Japan and be there 50 or 70 years later. We're not going to create the institutions of democracy. We're going to go in. Let me just be as blunt as I can be. We're go in, blow shit up, take what we want, and leave. And what that leads to, and Trump himself has proven, he couldn't even get infrastructure week done. It became a joke. He doesn't get anything done. He gets bored and he moves on. Does anybody really think they're going to put the resources necessary into building civil institutions and to trying to support democracy in Venezuela? They don't want that. They don't want democracy here. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
it's a joke. I mean, they're going to try to steal oil and various minerals and anything else that's not nailed down. And I mean, I promise you all, sadly, I don't want this to be the case, but we have to be realistic. It will be chaos within 6 months. There will be civil war between various groups. There'll be terrorists coming. And if we have U.S. troops on the ground there, they will be getting blown up. There'll be terrorist attacks. If you're a Colombian, and I'm not picking on any particular group, because you know what? If you study history the last 100 years, there are a lot of people in Latin America who have lots of reasons to freaking hate us.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you want to take a shot at an American soldier, great place to go. So somebody died under, in your family under Pinochet, who we installed. Somebody died in your family in Nicaragua, under that son of a bitch. I can't even think of his name right now. But, I mean, like, what do we think is going to happen here? Like, it will become a place where they will go and try to murder Americans. I promise you, American soldiers, if we have boots on the ground, will die, as will oil workers, as will others. And guess what? A lot of innocent Venezuelan civilians will too. It's going to be it's a disaster.
I'll also, well said. And I'll also add, this is where we need a true opposition party in Congress. We can't have complicit corporate Democrats saying that, well, he was a bad guy, he's a horrible guy, but you should have checked us first before taking him out. Like, that's missing the point. There is an international due process for people like Maduro that should have been followed, that has an international court of justice, that has an international criminal court, like that's being done with Netanyahu. There's no reason why that process shouldn't be followed here as well. If the standard is we're just gonna drop a crap ton of bombs and go pick up the guy and his wife, who, I don't know if you saw her photos in court, she looked like she was beat up, which is horrifying as well. There's a whole other story behind that. No, her black eye, I mean, she looks like she got beat up pretty badly, which again is horrific. This is setting a precedent that undermines the entire world order. If all a country has to do is label the head of another country a criminal and then go after him, well, Putin's labeled Zelensky a criminal. Is he justified now to go and drop in and pick up Zelensky? China could label Taiwanese leadership criminals and go in and
I'm scared that's coming next. And that's what some of what this was about, that these guys all kind of agreed, spheres of influence and all of that. And I mean, I would be scared. I mean, I'm nervous just because they're human beings, but my God, if I had family in Taiwan, I mean, China's wanted to, this has been sort of the one group that stood up to China and has lasted. And they don't want that as an example for other people.
And adding fuel to the fire, there we are saying, oh, Greenland's next or Cuba's next. It's sort of like whatever Donald Trump and his administration decide needs to belong to the United States, our sphere of influence, we can grab it. And to me, then it takes, I mean, you can, I suppose if you're trying to keep China from invading Taiwan, you could say, look, China and Taiwan is very different from Venezuela and the United States, because in the United States, we were simply trying to go after Maduro. I think that's a stupid argument, but I can see the argument being made. But you lose that argument the moment you say Cuba's next, and then Colombia, and then Greenland, because then you're basically saying to China, do whatever you want, grab Taiwan, you go to war with Japan if you want. We don't care. It's in your hemisphere. It's in your sphere of influence. We've got our own sphere of influence, and that's all we care about.
Yeah. Survival of the fittest in each particular area, right? And same with other, I mean, who knows where MBS will feel like he can take his bone saw to next. I mean, there's we're all these folks we're giving the green light to, these types of regimes. Go ahead, Qasim. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just, I think people need to think about the implications of this beyond this moment. We've got the World Cup coming to North America in a couple of months. What kind of impact is this going to have? What kind of impact is it going to have on travel, on the athletes themselves? If you're an athlete from South America, do you really want to compete in the United States as well? I mean, there's so much of a ripple effect that's going to happen here. If the U.S. just commandeers 17% of the world's oil supply by taking over Venezuela, what's stopping China from saying, you know what, we produce 90% of the world's EV batteries, no more EV batteries for anybody. We produce 80% of the world's processing chips, no more processing chips. I mean, there's so many implications here. I've got a good friend of mine who just finished up his service in the U.S. Armed Forces. And one of the points that he made to me is that part of the problem right now is that Trump has convinced these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids that we don't need the rest of the world. that we're powerful
Yeah.
enough to just exist on our own, and that anybody who thinks that we need them is stupid. And they just don't understand that's not how the world works. That's not how national security works. That's not how trade works. That's not how the economy works. And because they're convinced that we don't need anyone else in the world, they're making very stupid decisions and they're going along with the ride. And a lot of the younger generation, we saw a 10-point rightward shift, has been duped and convinced by Trump to do this. And folks call him dumb. He's not. He's extremely sophisticated in placing people around him that are, one, gutting public education, making housing more expensive, worsening the economic divide, denying us basic healthcare access so we can't leave our jobs, buying out having billionaires buy out media outlets, ascensions. This is a very coordinated fascist attack, and that's why I'm begging people, don't fall for the BS culture wars, because at the end of the day, we're all going to suffer immensely while billionaires continue to count their dollars in the bank.
That's it. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, question for both of you, and it comes to mind because of something that I saw Joe Walsh, I think he put on his Substack. He posted that, we have lost the ability in the United States to control Donald Trump. So he was basically asking the rest of the world, please start to sanction the United States. He said, I love this country, but we need your help now. We need foreign leaders. We need leaders in Europe and Asia and Africa to start sanctioning the United States for our actions, for the actions of our leaders. First of all, Qasim and then Cliff, what do you make of that? Is it, can you love America? Can you stand for what this country is supposed to stand for? And at the same time, is it appropriate now for us to say to the world, we need your help in punishing the United States?
I think Joe does love this country. I disagree with him on a lot, but I don't question his sincerity to love this country. I also think that sanctioning is only going to hurt working people the most. The folks who are in power, in charge, it's not going to affect them in the least bit. It's going to hurt working people the absolute most. And if there's one thing we've learned about the effectiveness of the Southern strategy, is that the MAGA base does not care if they're hurt as long as Black and brown people are hurt even more. We're seeing that with healthcare. We're seeing that with the cost of living. We're seeing with the lack of broadband access, the lack of infrastructure. It's wild to me. So that's one.
That old LBJ comment, which, as long as the lowest white, something along the lines, as long as the lowest white man feels he's above the highest Black man in status, then you got him.
He'll empty his wallet for you. So I don't know if the sanctioning will work, but what I will say is that there are means for the world to flex to the United States that we're not as big as we think we are. And I just read a report that the BRIC nations and 16 other nations are actually bypassing the U.S. embargo on Venezuelan oil and just docking anyway and still going about their business, daring the U.S. to respond. Now that, to me, is a pretty bold statement, because now it puts the ball back in Trump's court. Are you going to do something about it? Obviously, if he does something like that, it's going to hurt the oil profits, so he probably won't. But I think Joe has something. I don't know if I agree with that point exactly, but there certainly needs to be some international accountability. This is where the UN needs to step up and be more direct about it. But again, when we allow war crimes to go unpunished, this is an example of how it accelerates.
Cliff, how about it?
Well, again, when you don't, and I supported a lot, as I said before, of Barack Obama's presidency, but when you don't look back, then what you end up having happen is you didn't look back at the people that tortured and justified it. You didn't look back at the people that started an illegal war and justified it. And not a big shocker, some of those very people are the ones who are with Trump now and have inspired things, or probably were part of Project 2025 and all of this. What do I think now is a good question going forward. Sanctions, again, that is a tough one. My tendency would be to say yes, but Qasim makes a very good point. And if it's only going to hurt the poorest among us, that isn't the way to do it. I've thought about whether it's, first of all, I don't know why anybody from any democracy would want to travel here. I think travel from Canada to Florida, which is their big travel spot, is down. I think I read 60%. Again, though, who that hurts. Overall, the U.S. has to be shown that we're not who we think. We're not as tough as we think we are. And again, I'm saying this as somebody, I love this country. I love what the Constitution says. I've always believed, and part of our sort of, mission statement at Blue Amp Media here is to become what the Constitution says that we are. to reach that level, and we never have. Right? We've for many times moved closer, and then there'd be periods where we'd go backwards. We're certainly in one of those.
Yeah.
It's tough. But I absolutely we need other countries, I think, to band together against us to prevent us from this behavior. And again, whether that's sanctions, travel restrictions, various other methods, certain alliances, whatever it might be, the rest of the world needs to look at the United States now as exactly what we are. We are a rogue nation that doesn't follow international law. I mean, I wrote a whole Substack way back when about, when we were bombing, just bombing the fishermen, which I don't mean it that way. That was horrific.
Yeah.
And saying, that Pete Hegseth wouldn't give them the benefit of the doubt. We actually fairly tried Hermann Goring, who was a monster. And the precedent that was set by Robert Jackson and Truman and Ike was that we were going to try to go forward and say that in this world there should be international law, and that people were going to have due process, and these guys are trying to undo that 70 years of all of that progress, and so whatever it takes, you know what I mean? Obviously, I don't want anybody bombing us or nuking us. I'm not saying that, but what in whatever economic pressure, diplomatic pressure, other ways,
Yeah.
hell, start taking Donald Trump's name off his various buildings in your country, and I bet that'll piss him off enough that maybe he'll beg you to, God forbid, his name disappear from anywhere. Whatever leverage you can use.
I mean, I well said, Cliff. I mean, I think the international community, and I use that term broadly, needs to make a decision on where the red line is. He's already bombed 7 countries so far, and helped Netanyahu bomb four countries as well. He's already invaded 1 country. If he invades Greenland next, now I think the world is going to pay attention because, again, just to be very blunt about it, the first 7 countries he's bombed or helped bomb are all black and brown majority countries.
And can I say something quickly? I don't want to cut you off, Qasim, but I think it's important for people to know that, Fiona Hill, during her testimony way back when, said that there was a, trade between Trump and Putin, Venezuela for Ukraine. It's quite obvious whether, we don't know all the facts of that, but he's, when you give his list of horrific things he's done, he's done his best to enable Putin in Ukraine is something
100%.
else. People have died in Ukraine, and a quarter of my family is from Odessa way back when. Like he's done his best to ensure more death and more destruction in Ukraine, so they've been able to get away with whatever they want.
Yeah.
In other words, let me kick it back to you. I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just
important point.
His list even goes beyond like the places he's personally bombed, the destruction he's enabled.
Oh, that's exactly. I mean, that's such an important point, Cliff. That there are ramifications that aren't always obvious, and so I'm glad you called that out and point that out. I think with Greenland now, he's infringing on what's understood as Europe essentially, and the question is going to be how much further. The last time a fascist started to invade Europe, it resulted in. I mean, we're seeing it with Putin right now, but I'm talking about Hitler invading Poland. I mean, there are parallels between that and Trump just decided to take Venezuela because he wants to. So is the line going to be Greenland? Is the line going to be Mexico, Cuba? Like, what is the line going to be? Because at the end of the day, if they don't have a clear line of demarcation, which I think he's already well past it based on international law, he's going to continue. Stephen Miller has been explicitly clear about that. The fascist that is whispering in his ear has been explicitly clear about this. And so I think that's a question the international community needs to figure out. What is that line and how are they going to enforce it? Otherwise, this will get a lot worse a year from now and the world will be unrecognizable compared to right now.
And while we talk about the line that the international community has to decide where it is and when it's crossed, is it too late to think that that even with begging and pleading that the U.S. Congress could somehow assert itself more and at least have oversight hearings and ask questions about it? I hear some Republicans, Tom Tillis and others, questioning what the administration is doing in Venezuela and questioning the policy in the Middle East and Israel and on and on and on. It feels like at a certain point, even some of the grown-ups, I mean, granted, most members of the House, you could pick out, 435 random Americans, and they would be smarter, I think, than most members of the House. But there are some members of the House and certainly some members of the Senate who know better, who understand these issues in foreign policy and the cooperation that's required around the world in order to uphold a certain sort of world order. And do we just write them off? Do we just say, you know what, under Republican Congress, we can't expect anything?
Can I say something quickly? Like some of these folks that are leaving, good that Tom Tillis is doing it. Hey, Elise Stefanik, he knifed you. Maybe it's time to step up and do something. You look at someone like Don Bacon, who always called himself, moderate or center right, whatever, a military veteran. Where are you on this? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Step up.
You're right. I mean, I think this is the exacerbation that everybody has, that we can't find 10 Republicans to say, hey, this is bad, actually, and I don't want my kids to live in a world where it's a dictator in charge that that launches nuclear weapons by tweet, which God forbid that ever happens, but I could see it happening, which is how scary. So I don't know the answer to that. I feel like there's a combination of they're complicit, they may have compromising information they don't want coming out, or I think the scary version is they're enjoying it. They like it. They've bought into the white nationalist ideology and think this is a way to protect their so-called way of life.
I think there's definitely some of that. Some of those folks were always scared of, the brown hordes taking over. When we became a minority country, and we already have more minority babies being born than white babies. And I think that's what this is all about with ICE and all that. We already have numerous states, New Mexico, I believe Arizona is certainly headed that way, Texas, where they're majority minority states. And this freaks these guys out. So I think some of them, you're absolutely right. Some of them have gone, but few of these ones that, again, I never liked them. I thought their policies were wrong, but like I sort of respected them a little bit as they were sort of at least maybe semi-statesmen of a sort. They stood up to Trump at times on Ukraine. We have one here in Ohio, Mike Turner, who I think is mostly bad, like any Republican, but stood up to him on Ukraine. Well, where are you right now? Like, this is the moment.
Well, this is my ask of folks in these midterm elections, to be discerning on who you vote for, not just in the general, but also in the primary. We need to send the best possible candidates to the general election from the Democratic Party side. And if that means a changing of the guard, we need to change the guard. I don't want to send Democrats to Congress who are silent or who refuse to impeach Trump, or who will vote for policies that are harmful to working people, who refuse to support universal health care, who refuse to raise a living wage. I mean, and there are Democrats who are voting for these absurd corporate-backed policies. And frankly, it becomes indistinguishable from Republicans at that point. So
on those issues, you're so right, and thank you for saying that. I just sort of again, I don't want to get into there'll be people that like some of these personalities and don't, but on this specific issue, whatever else you think of him, I just wrote one. Seth Moulton had the perfect response to calling out Trump, calling his behavior illegal, calling him a criminal, saying that this was, pointing out this is a criminal action that risks American lives and other. I wish I had it in front of me, and I put it alongside what Hakeem Jeffries said, because I wanted you to see what a real response is, where you say this, that this what you have done is illegal, it is immoral, it cannot stand, and the rest, and it doesn't matter. And then you read Hakeem Jeffries' response, which has a whole first paragraph on what a bad guy Maduro is, which, again, guys, we have an old saying in politics: if you're explaining, you're losing. Yes. And if you need to start off by saying how terrible Maduro is for a whole, pardon whatever, fucking paragraph, like, what is, then you're showing us how weak you are. And then he never uses those words, illegal, criminal. I mean, this man's a convicted felon, so you can call him a criminal and not get in any kind of trouble anytime you want legally. And then ends it with a paragraph where he's like, and pursuant to Congress, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck says pursuant? Like, who are you trying to appeal to here? Tell them it's illegal. Tell them it's immoral. Tell them it's a war crime. Tell them it must stop immediately. Tell them that Trump is an out-of-control dictator. And Moulton did that, and Ruben Gallego did that. They both answered it brilliantly. So I'm going to go, before I kick it to you, David, and go a step further than Qasim. And I'm going to say, please vote for people that won't vote for these Chuck
Thank you.
Schumer and Hakeem
Thank
Jeffries
you.
as leaders.
Yes.
I mean, like Mallory McMorrow in Michigan, the minute she came out and was like, I will never vote for Chuck Schumer, loved her. Zach Walls in Iowa, the minute he came out and said, will not vote for Chuck Schumer, loved him. As I mean, and that's the way I'm looking at this stuff.
Well, and my point is, I think for Democrats, even for those of us who think that most Americans don't care about Venezuela, most Americans are not going to be moved by moral outrage over what has been done to Maduro and what has been done to Venezuela, because most Americans probably couldn't find Venezuela on a map. But even if that is the state of our, public right now, you can still, both things can be true. You can still have moral outrage and call out Donald Trump the way these Seth Moultons and everyone else has. And at the same time, make the argument that Rahm Emanuel, for example, has said. He had a clever line where he said, I care more about what's happening in Columbus than Caracas. And we need to, instead of focusing on Venezuela, think about Virginia. And that's...
And I can't stand Rahm Emanuel. The fact that
I have issues with Rahm Emanuel, but there is an argument to be made that politically, the way to win politically in all of this, given that we have a society that probably doesn't care, as we've seen, mostly about the Middle East or mostly maybe about Venezuela, is to say, okay, at least then tag the Trump administration as taking their eye off of the ball of what really matters to most Americans, your pocketbooks, your finances, the economy.
And then let's get back to, that's also a way of pivoting back, and we should talk about it. You also care about not being shot in the back of the head when you're sitting in your car in Minneapolis.
Right.
Exactly right.
I do believe, and Qasim, I can't tell you how much. We'll have to talk offline at some point. Like, your messaging is so perfect here, because this is something I keep saying to people. This is not a Democrats versus Republicans. It's also not a rich versus poor. It is billionaire oligarchs and their enablers against everyone. You could be living in the suburbs right now with your great life, making $300,000 a year, and they are still finding ways to extract money from you, to charge you more to send your kids to college, to charge you more for childcare, to charge you more for everything. And where is that money going? It's going to the what was it? The jet, tax cut for billionaires. It's going to so they can issue bonds at spaceports. Gee, who owns spaceports in this country? I can't think of any private individuals besides Jeff Bezos and Musk. Is this group, every conspiracy they've made up about us, they have this group of just going to these weird fucking obsessed billionaires who, when we talk about people who hoard newspapers, who hoard money obsessively and weirdly, and will deny kids food so they can put more money into their 14th mansion or their 17th yacht. And this is what they're doing. And so whether you make $50 a year, again, I'm not saying that you're in the same category, but I'm just saying 50 or 50,000 or 500,000, it is this small group against all of us. And that's what people need to understand.
That's exactly right, Cliff. I mean, I think one thing the right has done a really effective job of is making people think that if you make $1 million a year, it's an infinite amount of money. And $1 million is a lot of money, don't get me wrong. It's also insignificant to what the billionaires have.
Exactly.
It's literally insignificant. You know what the difference is between $1 million and $1 billion? About $1 billion. Like, it is an insignificant amount.
Well said.
To the billionaires. And when we talk about taxing the wealthy, I don't want to tax somebody making $500,000 to, at 40%, 50%. I do want to tax a guy making $500 billion at 40%, 50%. And that is how we built this country between 1940 and 1980, with a high marginal tax rate. And this is going
91% was the highest rate under
Ike. No, 94. It went to 94% at one point.
Was it 94? And I don't know that we can do it, but AOC, when she said 70% above 10 million, I mean, I'm in the same place as you, which is, again, like, I don't think making $1 million a year is the same thing as making $50,000 a year.
No,
but I will tell you, you're closer to them than you are to the palace in the sky, wherever Elon Musk lives, and they are extracting from all of us. And so don't let this divide all of us, because truthfully, if you're making a couple $100,000 a year, they probably raised your taxes. They certainly raised all sorts of fees on you, and other taxes went up locally because of the big tax cuts for billionaires. So you're paying more in local taxes for everything. Your childcare is fucking ridiculous. I have kids. I've gone through childcare. I've got one in college right now. This is what they're doing to us for billionaires.
That's right. That's exactly right. And this goes back to my point, and I'm so glad you brought up Schumer and Jeffries with their, mansplaining of everything. The fact that 10 years into Trump, the Democratic Party still doesn't have a clear message of what it stands for is insufferable. It is indefensible. What does the party stand for? You ask 100 people, you'll get 150 different answers. And that's part of the problem. If all you can be defined as, hey, we may not be perfect, but at least we're not Trump, that's not a winning message. And they need to have figured that out by now. And the fact that they refuse to figure that out is because of these examples where a long ass essay about how bad Maduro is, and then a small little line about how Trump should have gotten congressional approval, and then another long essay about
written
how
in like the kind of legalese that you would write a brief in.
Yes.
You know, that most
Yes.
people can, like, that most humans don't talk that way. They don't
No.
read things that way. It's insane.
They really don't. They really don't. And until they can fix that, and it's not a messaging issue, it's a values issue. Until they recognize that their values are just misaligned with what working folks want, they're going to keep losing these elections. And that's fundamentally the problem right now.
Qasim, to try to help people from losing their life, you mentioned at the start that you have this piece about what people should know about their rights and how they should react to ICE. I wonder if you can give us a couple examples, given that we started the show with
great point, David.
There's a woman in Minnesota who did not want to get out of her SUV, and she drove away from ICE, and for that she was literally executed. What should people do? What should protesters do if an ICE agent says, "Hey, stop filming me," or "Get the F out of your car," or "Give me your ID"? What should people do?
So for starters, you want to prep ahead of time. If you're an immigrant, if you're undocumented, or if your status is in question, we don't need you to be a martyr. We do not. And this is where U.S. citizens, we need to step up and lead the charge in this space. Don't expect our immigrant neighbors to put their lives on the line for their basic civil rights. Whether they're documented or undocumented, they have due process under the Constitution. ICE doesn't give a damn because they're fascists, but the fact is we shouldn't force them to test. So do not ask undocumented or documented immigrants to put themselves in front of ICE. U.S. citizens, we need to be at the forefront, first of all. Second of all, if you are an immigrant, have your A number memorized, have your emergency contact number memorized, and have your lawyer's number memorized. Do not carry a phone in these places because they can break into your phone. And remember, they can lie to you. Law enforcement can lie to you, and it's admissible in court. You cannot lie to them. And so then that's the next point. The best way to not lie to law enforcement is to not speak. If you get arrested by ICE, don't fight, don't resist, don't threaten, simply comply. And it sucks to have to say this, but the only words that should escape your mouth is, "I want my lawyer." That's it. I want my lawyer.
Should you ask, can I ask, because some people have said, other lawyers, you should ask if you're being arrested or detained, or should you not do that?
You should. I mean, that's the first question. Am I being detained? If the answer is no, get the hell out of there. If the answer is yes, say, "I want my lawyer." That's like, you don't need to give any more information. Now, some states require you to provide your ID if you have it, or provide your name. And so that's a state by state specific. So I can't give a blanket answer right now. So I want to be very careful about that. Check with your local state. You can Google your local ACLU for your state and it'll tell you. But after that, remember, they will try to lie to you to get you to talk. And you need to be explicitly clear. "I want my attorney. I want my lawyer," period. There was a case where somebody said, "I want my lawyer, dog," and as slang, and they ruled, well, he wanted a dog lawyer, and we're not dog lawyers. He didn't actually invoke his rights, so therefore it was just nonsensical stuff. So just be very explicit. I'll give you one example. I was protesting ICE fascists at the Broadview facility in Chicago a few months ago. And
by the way, I'm going to say quickly, notice how Qasim keeps saying ICE fascists. Folks, that is what's called messaging. That is how you brand people. You keep repeating over and over. It's like how from now on, when we had Katie Fang on and I noticed her doing this, I'm like, why am I not doing this? It's always convicted felon Donald Trump. That's what I refer to him as.
And also, just to put Broadview in perspective, that's the same facility where a pastor was shot with a pepper ball in the head, right?
Pastor Black, yep. He's a great dude. I'm supposed to interview him pretty soon as well. Really a great guy, but he was shot in the head. They are arresting veterans. They are going after people for just sitting and waiting. And that's what the story I was about to tell, that we're blocked off from the facility about 200 meters away. We couldn't possibly hurt the facility. A good group. I got up on a cement block just to take some pictures of everybody. And another person did as well. Cops come running. "Hey, you got to get down from there right now." First question was, "Are you ordering me or is it my choice?" He says, "Well, I don't want you to get hurt." I'm like, "Okay, I'm a big boy. I can handle it." I took my pictures. I get down. I walk away. 10 seconds later, I turn around. They're arresting the other guy who is still standing there arbitrarily. And so the point is that they can lie to you. They will lie to you. You need to have your head on a swivel. And then finally, if you are arrested, then there are legal observers at a lot of these places. You want to convey your name to the legal observer and make sure that they can contact your family and get you an attorney as fast as humanly possible. And again, do not speak until an attorney shows up. Everything will be used against you, and you do not want to make their lives easier for them.
And for witnesses, Qasim, we all have the right to film, right?
Yes.
I mean, if we're not interfering with the police, if we're standing on a sidewalk and we see our buddy being arrested, we have the right to film and record it.
Please do. Please film. Please film. Even if they tell you to put your phone away, or they force you to, or they threaten you to, put it in your pocket, but do not stop recording. Let the audio capture it. We need to capture as much data as humanly possible.
All right, guys, I'm going to try something here. Let's see if it works.
Fucking shit.
Dude.
Where's that fucking tattoo?
Sorry, I
Where's this
old
fucking
now.
shit? Yeah. Get the fuck in your truck and get the fuck out of this city, dog.
Dude.
I mean it, bro. Don't make me fucking get on the phone and start calling people, because I'll have half this fucking city come down here and take you the fuck apart.
Well, dude, I'm not even from nowhere around. We just come
Fuck
through.
off, Nazi. Get in your truck and leave. Your whole fucking crew, Nazis?
No, man, we're not even from here.
Where the rest of them at?
Texas.
Yeah?
No, they're not.
Go back to fucking Texas.
Dude, I had this done years ago.
I know, and it's still on your fucking face,
Yes,
bro.
that's
I seen that before. I seen your fucking eyes, dog. Get the fuck out of my city, or I will fucking end you.
I'm not saying that's
fucking Nazi piece of fucking shit walking down fucking Lindale, bro. Yeah, get the fuck on. I see you, dog.
I just had to show that because that was what Matt McNeil, our friend, who is one of the hosts of one of the few progressive stations, that independently owned progressive stations, because our people never invest in these things, in Minneapolis, where he's also played in Seattle and in Chicago. I would say to you, he's on 3 to 5 Central Time. He'll be having, and David will be going on today at, so it'll be 4 o'clock Eastern to talk with him about what happened. But he had seen that video ahead of time. This guy literally has an SS tattoo on his neck, and he's a member of ICE. And that's acceptable, to just walk around when you're particularly trying to arrest Somalis and have an ICE and have a SS tattoo. I mean, I guess it's proper branding, and he's admitting who they truly are. But I don't know what else to say about how.
There's an article from, I want to say 2009 or 2010. I got the year might be fuzzy, but it's about 15 years ago, of interviewing FBI leadership about the concern of Nazis and white supremacists infiltrating law enforcement. And so we've known about this for decades. And not only has nothing been done about it, but it's obviously accelerated under the Trump regime. How many of those 1,600 insurrectionists that Trump pardoned are members of ICE right now? Pretty good chunk, I would be willing to bet. How many of them are members of the FBI right now? Pretty good chunk, I'd be willing to bet. And so this is the reality, right? That Rage Against the Machine song is pretty on point, right? Some of those who run forces are the same who burn crosses.
I thought of that line so much, you know, when we saw some of like some of these guys, right? It's so true. And again, an SS tat. I mean, it's just
remarkable. Qasim, for before we go, where can everybody find you on Substack and social media and all the other places where you're doing your great work?
I appreciate you guys. Speaking truth to power. It's refreshing and encouraging for me to see you guys lead the way. So thank you for having me here as well.
Everything you've done, I'm so glad we got you on. I've been a big fan for a long time. You fight the fight, you know, and I assume they target you for various reasons, and you're at in some ways more risk than we are. So what you're doing is courageous as well.
No, we're all in the fight. Yeah, I get my fair share of death threats. We're all in this fight. We'll keep marching on. I don't get silenced that easily. You can find me, my website, QasimRashid.com is my Substack as well. You can subscribe if you want to throw some coin my way. You're welcome to. Would welcome the financial support, but I don't have a paywall. I want my content to be accessible. I write daily on the human rights issues that impact all of us, and I try to make it a clear point to also provide meaningful calls to action on how you can protect yourself, your local community, your children, your family, and then also get involved to make meaningful long-term change. And anytime I have a chance to converse with folks like you, it's always a privilege. So thanks for having me on today.
Well, Qasim, I know I speak for Cliff as well when I say that in the midst of how terrible some of these events are and these incidents and how horrified we all are, it is a source of inspiration and strength to know that there are people like you that are out there, that are fighting the fight, that are educating people, that are enlightening us, that are using your things like your law degree to try to help people and try to, instead of hurting people. I mean, for Cliff and I. And Cliff, I know the more people that we meet like Qasim and others, and there's so many others out there who are standing up. We're not curled up a little ball and wailing, but are saying, no, we're going to take this country back. It provides fuel for us to keep going.
And not part of the what do we want to call it? For a while, I was calling it the Jake Tapper Tribune as the corporate.
The lame stream.
Maybe it's a Barry Weiss. There must be a German word that starts with W. That's awful.
That's right.
All I'm saying is, David was at MSNBC. David won an Emmy at MSNBC. He's here on independent media. We're here, doing this stuff now. And the key is, and that's why when Qasim asked you if you would consider subscribing to him, a paid subscription, please do. When you consider subscribing to Blue Amp, we're at blueamp.co, a paid subscription, please do. We also don't have a paywall. The more we are all able to do this, because I promise you, as they consolidate corporate media even more, as these assholes who bought, are maybe going to buy CNN too, PBS is gone. We're going to be the ones who are going to be here to tell you these things are going on, because they will not.
Yep.
So
well said. Very well said.
We'll do what we can do. Thank you all for being here. Qasim, thank you so much.
Thank you. Cliff, great show as always, my friend.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Keep fighting the fight. Stay out there. There'll be plenty of places. Hopefully, some of the people that you subscribe to, you read, Qasim, us, others, you can learn more about what happened in Minneapolis, what you can do to fight back. I don't know. I have a hard time with the rest of it because I'm angry right now. So I'll just say my usual sign-off phrase, which is, as the sun sets slowly in the west, my friends, I bid you a fond farewell. Take care and have a good day. And I don't have the video to go to that I normally do. So, there it is. All right. Take care. And I'm